Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. It's a very exciting day because 2024 calendars are out at Dollar Tree and it's time to craft with them. So I picked up a bunch of these calendars so I could show them to you guys. They are absolutely gorgeous. They've got like floral ones, stuff with inspirational sayings. This one, it's called Montage. It has like scrapbooky looking designs. Super adorable. And I, of course, had to share some new craft ideas that you can make with these fun brand new calendars. Let's get making. This first craft is seriously so easy. You can start with any picture frame, dollar store frame or otherwise. I just had this one. I bought a bunch of these because I really liked this style, so they were in my craft room. Take off that protective plastic film, pop out the back. And I grabbed this Today is a Good Day calendar, flipped to the August page, which had this cute little camera print on it. It says love the moment. And so I decided I was going to frame that. So I just took the backing of my picture frame, centered it right over the calendar page, and then traced out the edges with a pencil. And then just grab a paper trimmer and trim that calendar page right down to size so that you can pop it right into the picture frame. Now this is a great way to make easy framed art, but I went one step further and I just grabbed some yellow flowers from Dollar Tree and I just took 2 little sprigs of them and then some pink and white check ribbon that I also got from Dollar Tree. I think I picked this up this spring, but any type of flowers, any type of ribbon, greenery, whatever that kind of matches whichever calendar page that you decide to frame. And then I just tied a little bow and then hot glued that right to the bottom right-hand corner of the frame. So simple. And then my kids, for Christmas this year, their aunt bought them this USA calendar where you can fill in a photo from each state. And so they're on this mission to go to all 50 states. So I just added this framed print right next to our map. Right now, Dollar Tree usually sells these little framed signs with like faux wooden frames, and then it has like some sort of like graphic in the center. This is left over from their summer stuff, but they usually have these all year round with just different seasonal things on them. I just popped off that little metal decal and then opened up this beautiful life calendar. And on the February page, it has this quote that says, "Do small things with great love," which is one of my favorite quotes. And so I decided I was going to frame that, just use my paper trimmer to trim it down to size. And like in true like Amy fashion, like I trimmed it a little and it was too big, and then I trimmed it a little bit more and it was too big, and then I felt like Goldilocks, right? And then I trimmed a little bit more and then I'd gone too far. But either way, so I realized a little bit of that navy blue was going to poke through on the edges, but I also realized the calendar pages are so thin that you could kind of see the design through the calendar page. So in an abundance of caution, I just picked out a like light blush pink acrylic craft paint that kind of coordinated with my calendar page, and I just did a solid coat of paint. Actually, maybe did 2 coats, just because the difference between the navy blue and the pink was so stark. This is totally optional. I just think it like really is going to depend on what type of calendar page. If you have a calendar page that has a dark background, you're probably not going to need to do this, but if it's white, I would probably recommend, take some white chalk paint or apple barrel white paint, whatever you have, just so that the pattern underneath doesn't poke through your calendar page. And then once that paint had dried, I came in with Mod Podge. Any type of Mod Podge that you like. I usually work with matte Mod Podge because I just prefer that, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And apply a nice generous coat all over the sign. And here is my trick for Mod Podging calendar pages, because these are a beast to work with, and I have cried over more than one project, and I'm not even like exaggerating here. So what you do is you paint the entire surface with Mod Podge, and then you let it dry. If you put this calendar page down on wet Mod Podge, it's gonna wrinkle, it's gonna warp, it's not gonna look good. So you have to let it completely dry, and then take your calendar page, set it in place, and then I have this little mini heat press. It's like the knockoff generic version of the Cricut one because I was too cheap to pay full price for the Cricut one. But it's just like a mini heat press, comes in super handy. If you have an iron with no steam, that works just as well. And then you just go over the whole project. Now, you could put a piece of parchment paper down to protect your surface, but because I wasn't like bumping up against areas that had Mod Podge, I just went straight in with the heat press. And then you could leave this as is without any other embellishments, but I wanted to be a little extra. So I got these, they were spring flowers from Michael's on major clearance, like 70% off. Pop them off the stem, trim the backing, not so that the centerpiece comes out and the flower falls apart, but just trim it so it's a little flatter and it'll lay closer to the sign. And then apply a bunch of hot glue to the back. And where each little flower was on that little wreath, I covered it with a silk flower. The yellow ones were pretty easy. The pink ones got a little wonky because the stem was connected to the thing that held the center together. So I kind of had to add some hot glue in between a few of the layers to get everything to hold, but it did work out just fine, no problem. But just cover all of those little flowers with silk flowers, and then you have this cute little sign with my personal mantra that I have to tell myself like whenever it's like 9 o'clock at night and I have a sink full of dirty dishes and a baseball uniform that needs to get washed by the next day and all the things, it's just do small things with great love. Okay, Dollar Tree lately has a lot of plastic organizing buckets, laundry baskets, and these little, I think it's a trash can, I'm not entirely certain. But we're gonna make it a trash can for my daughter's room because she's going through a major teal phase. And I'm really loving this montage calendar. It's like super scrapbooky looking, and I feel like I could use every single page on this calendar for a craft project if I were given the opportunity. So I just did kind of like a classic decoupage, like collage thing here. I just cut out different graphics using scissors and then Mod Podged them right to the bucket. And now I know I said never use calendar pages on wet Mod Podge, but on this I kind of have to because I didn't know if this plastic was going to hold up to the heat press on it. I was afraid I was going to end up with a melted trash can. So very, very thin coat of Mod Podge here. I used Mod Podge hard coat. I think it probably works better for this project, but I mean a very, very thin coat. And then you're going to have to, because it's a thin coat, it'll dry faster, but as it starts to dry, you're going to have to smooth it and keep an eye out for bubbles because they will form. So I would say lay each piece down and like over the course of the next 5-10 minutes, keep an eye on it and keep smoothing it down. And then I just continued with a few of the calendar pages and I trimmed out different elements and Mod Podged them right onto the trash can. Any pieces that were like hung over the end of the trash can, I just trimmed away with a pair of scissors, no problem. But I just went all the way around the trash can until everything was covered the way I liked it, and I had kind of like a design that I liked. And so this will go in my daughter's room, and luckily she likes it. So I scored major mom points here. She likes a project that I made, and I didn't run it by her beforehand. So I was feeling pretty good about that. Next up, I have this Every Moment Matters calendar that has these beautiful floral watercolor designs that I'm going to use to update a glass candle holder. So I just trimmed off a section of just the floral piece. So I'm not going to use any of the writing or the text, just the little floral part. And then I just trimmed it down to size. So a height that matched the height of my glass candle holder, and then that also matched the length of the paper, matched the diameter, no, the circumference of the candle holder. And then just applied a coat of Mod Podge, any type of Mod Podge, once again, to the glass. Now, if I had this to do over again, I would have painted the glass with some sort of opaque paint and then applied the Mod Podge, and I'll show you why when this is finished. But just smooth on that cut piece of a calendar page all the way around the candle holder. And then my candle holder had this little lip at the bottom, and you could leave it plain, but I decided to embellish it. And my initial thought was, oh, I should use twine or jute rope, but I feel like I use jute rope on like everything that I make. So I have this ribbon, it's from Michaels, and they still have it. I saw it in the store the other day, and it's kind of like a braided twine with leaves on it. So you can't just hot glue this on because it's not going to stay. But you can't use E6000 either because it's going to be a slippery mess. So you have to use both. So a little bit of hot glue. And then this is actually not even real E6000. It's like the fake stuff from Dollar Tree. It's like their version. I think it works just fine. But then wrap all the way around that candle holder base, alternating hot glue, E6000, hot glue, E6000, and go all the way around a few times until that base is covered. And then here's my finished candle holder. As you can see, you can see the calendar page grid poking through the glass, which is kind of annoying. So like I said, if I did this again, I would probably paint the glass first or Mod Podge like a piece of solid scrapbook paper or something underneath, and then do the calendar page. Live and learn. Here I'm repurposing a Christmas craft that I made last year on the YouTube channel, and it's the scroll sign. So I made these scroll signs for Christmas. It was super fun. But now I'm going to repurpose it and turn it into a Thanksgiving craft. So it's just like brown craft paper rolled over dowels and secured in the back with paper clips and hung up with twine. It's super easy. Like, you don't even need to watch the tutorial. It's that easy. I'm sure you can figure it out just by like looking at it here. But I'm just going to make the scroll sign a little bit longer so that it will fit a calendar page. And I have this Beautiful Life calendar that has some amazing artwork in it. And I'm going to go to the November page that has this little give thanks thing going on. And I'm just going to trim off the bottom edge because I ripped it out of the calendar. So I want to trim off the bottom edge to get a clean cut. And then I saw this somewhere on YouTube. I can't remember where, I'm so sorry. But there's that hole at the top of the calendar page, which is going to look funny. So I flipped to another page in the calendar that had a similar pattern. I ripped out a little piece of it, and then I just took a regular glue stick, like a school glue stick, and I glued it right onto the back of my calendar page, so it kind of filled in that hole so it's not as obvious. Now, you can still see it, but unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to notice it. Okay, then from there, I didn't want to just stick my calendar page onto my scroll sign. I wanted to add a layer of like texture and dimension. So I always keep scrap burlap in my craft room. It was a little wrinkled, so I just used my little heat press to kind of work out that seam there. But now I'm going to show you like the easiest way to cut burlap so it doesn't fray like crazy. So find where you want to cut. take one thread and pull it all the way out and then trim it. And then that will leave a nice vertical line that you can cut through. So don't make sure you cut right on that line so you don't trim any more of the vertical threads. But this is a way to cut perfectly square pieces of burlap and then repeat that process horizontally so you get a nice cut square. And then I decided to fray the edges just a little bit. So I think I pulled 2 threads from each side of my burlap square. And I wanted to really play up the green in this give thanks thing. I just felt like it was so, it was like brown on brown on brown. It was just too much. So I just took some plain green acrylic craft paint. I actually think this is Folk Art matte paint in the color Clover. And I just kind of painted it along the edges. I started with a regular flat paintbrush and I quickly realized I did not like what was going on there. So I switched to a large pouncer brush. And then I tried to make the paint thicker in some areas and thinner in other areas just to give a little bit more texture and dimension, but do whatever you want. And the great thing about this craft is you could do this with literally any month. So if there's a beautiful spring page in a calendar, rip that out, use pink craft paint, and you're in business. So then once that paint had dried, it's time to assemble. So I just unrolled my scroll sign, set my burlap in place, and then I use these foam mounting squares. I think I got them at Dollar Tree, I'm not sure. A super, super heavy duty, permanent, double-sided adhesive tape would work, mounting squares, whatever. Even hot glue in a pinch, although with burlap, make sure you use a fingertip protector so you're not burning your fingers. But I just put a ton of these mounting squares on the back of the burlap. And then I just flip that over and smooth that in place. And then I also use the same mounting squares on the calendar page, although I didn't use nearly as many because I was worried more about the weight of the burlap than I was the calendar page. Smooth that in place, hung it up, and you're in business, a cute little Thanksgiving sign. But like I said, do this for any month, any color. Possibilities are endless. All right, last but not least, we have Christmas ornaments. So these are just some unfinished wood Christmas ornaments. I got them at Hobby Lobby last year, but I think they have them every year. And then I went back to this montage calendar that I love, to the December page, and I just traced my ornament out right onto the calendar page. So just trace it out easily with a pencil, and then you use a pair of scissors to cut that right out. Now, this ornament has kind of a funny little topper, so I had to get kind of creative. So I set the calendar page in place, and then I pressed it down at the top over that scalloped edge so that there was an indentation in the paper. And then I followed that indentation with my scissors to cut out that tiny little scallop pattern so I had a perfect fit with my paper. And then back with more Mod Podge, I used matte, but use whatever you want. Apply a nice coat of Mod Podge to the entire front surface of the ornament. And then again, you're gonna let it dry, because if you put this flimsy calendar paper on wet Mod Podge, you're gonna have wrinkles and bubbles, and it's not gonna end well for you. So let that dry, and then you can set your cut piece of calendar paper perfectly in place and use a mini heat press to set and reactivate that Mod Podge so the paper sticks. Now, I just heat pressed this paper right to the ornament. I did not seal it with another coat of Mod Podge, and here's why. I had a moment making this craft roundup, and it involved some charger plates that got completely destroyed because I went through all the effort of painting them, Mod Podging them, heat pressing them, and then I added another coat on top, and it all just wrinkled and bubbled. And I even tried to let it dry and repress it, and it was not happening. So it was a very emotional moment for me because I completely lost this project that I spent 2 hours on. So don't make my mistakes. So do not seal it with another coat of Mod Podge, okay? So that's it. I just have these cute little finished Christmas ornaments. You could add, I thought about hot gluing a sprig of faux pine or some jingle bells or something, but ultimately I just decided to keep these kind of more modern and minimalist, but you could embellish them however you like. But there you have it. Those are my 2024 calendar crafts. I hope you enjoyed watching these tutorials, and I really hope that you are able to find some of these calendars and maybe be inspired to make some crafts of your own. Until next time, happy making!